excited to have you on today's session, and we're going to wait just a couple minutes because we've got lots of folks that are registered to come in, and we're just going to give them a little time to get in. You know, it's early, it's morning, right, Dawn? We're just getting started here. The world is waking.
Yeah, but yeah, it's
That's true. That's true. That's true. And on the East Coast, you're on the East Coast, so it's already lunchtime. We're located in Mountain over here. We're an international group, so
yeah.
let's wait a minute or so. Hope everyone is doing well. You are joining us on In the Fight for Sight, how the Support Sight Foundation leads the change to end AMD, macular degeneration. And that's what we're going to cover today. Should be a great session. This is number 3 in the series, presented by a collaboration between Audivita Gives and Dawn Prahl, who I will tell you more about in a formal introduction coming shortly. So, Dawn, what do you think? Shall we get rolling?
Why not?
All right, we'll roll in. And this will be recorded, so anyone who showed up late for any reason, they'll have the ability to join us that way. So again, I want to welcome everyone for joining us on this very special edition of a webcast with the collaboration of Dawn and the Support Sight Foundation and Audivita Gives. I'm David Wolf, your co-host. Dawn is our expert. And before we get rolling, we would like to show you a quick video to kick things off today.
My name's Mike Oscar, and I have worked with Dawn Prahl for many years in her quest to overcome macular degeneration. And I've had the pleasure of working her as her advocate on behalf of the Support Sight Foundation, working both at the federal and state level for the last 10 years. But I'm not really here to talk about that. I'm here to talk to you as a person, because Good Friday of 2024, I got a call from my mother, who had recently been diagnosed with macular degeneration. And having been an advocate for you and talking to many of the individuals that have been impacted through the Support Sight Foundation over the last 10 years, and walking the halls of Congress or walking the state capitals with Dawn and hearing your testimonies, now I'm one of you. I am a caregiver for my mom. And my mom recently just celebrated her 80th birthday last Wednesday. And even though she's been getting injections for macular degeneration, she has dry and wet. I gave her her birthday card, and it's the first time my mom couldn't read the card, despite getting injections. And that really hit home. It hit home for me because now I see what you're dealing with every day. And now I know what it's like from a firsthand perspective. And reading that card to my mom and understanding that she couldn't see it, but also respecting her dignity and her vanity for someone who is taught not only in the classroom, but music, who played the piano for years, who played the organ, who played the harp. And to see her in that condition was very telling. And if anything, it invigorated me more to work harder for you. On a separate line, I recently reconnected with my cousin, who's a few years older than me, and his mom, my aunt, who happens to be my godmother, was recently diagnosed with macular degeneration too. In her instance, she was still living alone. She's a rugged individualist, kind of like my mom, not willing to give in. That generation, I've known them, worked with them, represented them, and you are, many of you in that age bracket, not all of you, but some of you, it's hard to let anybody in. But my aunt had taken a recent fall, and they had to make decisions, and my cousins had to move my aunt out of her home and into assisted living facility because of macular degeneration. So between these two individuals that are directly impacting me, that are part of my bloodline, obviously I'm concerned for myself and for my own children. I have 3 children that, are my, as I always call them, my precious cargo. and looking at the impact of macular degeneration for myself, for my brother, for my children, his children, and now what my mom and my aunt have to confront every day with my cousins and family. I just want you to know that I'm better prepared to not only understand what you're going through, I want to learn from you, I want to be a resource for you, but also know that I'm on the front lines every day, and I admire what Dawn has done, what she's created, because she has really embedded in me the statement that research makes medicine. And I know there's not a cure yet, but I know that we've been able to work on patents, we've been able to work on injections, we've been able to work with the University of Alabama and the Eye Institute to find a cure. And believe it or not, let me just end with this. For all the noise you hear out of Washington, this is a bipartisan issue because members of Congress and legislators understand directly what this macular degeneration is all about, because if they're not impacted by it, they have somebody like me, a mom or an aunt, that is creating this life-changing experience. And luckily, we have advocates like yourselves, your testimonials, the research that the support site has funded and served for over $25 million worth of research. And that's our number one goal, is to find a cure. So with that, I thank you for the opportunity, and know that you're with me every day as I fight on your behalf. And thank you.
Beautiful. And we want to thank Mike for sharing his amazing story, his insights, and for all the important work that he is doing for the Support Site Foundation and AMD. Stories like this, by the way, they're not rare. AMD is a real thing, and that's why we're here. That's why the work that Dawn and her foundation is so important. So with that, I want to officially welcome again those who may have joined late. I'm David Wolf, co-host for this session presented by Audivita Gives and the Support Site Foundation. We are collaborating to deliver a very special webcast series. This is the third installment of that series, designed to serve those who have macular degeneration, and you may be a care partner or a caregiver, and we want to serve you in working towards helping people that are living with the disease with an eye on the cure going forward into the future. Our session is entitled, In the Fight for Sight, How the Support Site Foundation Leads the Charge to End AMD. And before I introduce Dawn, our featured guest, I want to tell you a little bit more about sort of the broader view. The Support Site Foundation singularly focuses only on macular degeneration AMD. They don't split their attention. It's a 24/7, there's no off switch. They're constantly working singularly on this goal, the cure. And so this session and all of those that we are doing, and all the work that Dawn and her team does at the support site, is designed in part not only to raise money, but also build awareness and deliver action towards the goal of finding a cure. So let me introduce Dawn, who you have on screen now. So I'm talking about you in the third person, Dawn, because you know, Dawn Prawl is you are a nonprofit executive and fundraiser with leadership experience in healthcare, senior living, vision research, youth services, a whole lot. You've held senior roles with the Macular Vision Research Foundation, Wesley Enhanced Living, Einstein Jefferson Healthcare System, Atlantic Care Healthcare System, and the Big Brothers, Big Sisters of America. And Dawn is executive director and founder of the Support Site Foundation and the creator of MyMacDLife.org podcast, which we worked collaboratively on with you. You have advanced education, communication, certainly, awareness, research, funding, and access to all kinds of resources, a world of resources for all of those affected by this disease, macular degeneration, or MACD, as we sometimes call it. Dawn, you're recognized in your ability, and I know this from working with you, alongside of you, building partnerships, strengthening philanthropic support, and guiding mission-driven organizations like the foundation you run today.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And we're proud to be your partner, Dawn, and welcome. And we're looking forward to all you have to say about the work you're doing and about the disease itself for the benefit of those joining us. So welcome.
Yes, thank you. Thanks, David, and welcome to everyone. Hi out there. Thanks for joining us today. Well, I obviously have seen the video that Mike Oscar, our lobbyist, and he does all the advocacy for us for, as he mentioned, over a decade now. Um, and just I can barely keep myself together when I watch that video because Mike does a great tells the story in a way that I never could. I can't. And he tells the story in a way that inspires me, inspires our team, keeps us motivated. In fact, I think I'm going to add that video to my coffee and croissant or whatever I'm having every morning, just to keep our chin up and be motivated to continue to do what we do. And by the way, speaking of that, I think it's one of the purposes of today is to really kind of give folks who have joined us and who are watching this perspective, this broader view, David, because we have been at this since 1997. I mean, I don't think there was social media back then.
Yeah, that's right.
And the truth is, and part of what we want to talk about today, and if you want to get into the kind of the sections and how we break this up for people in bites for them to be able to understand it, take it in, and kind of get a sense of this long fight for sight, and the role that I've played and the role that the organization has played in that arc.
Yeah.
That sound like a good idea? Let's do that.
It sounds great. I mean, we've got several sections planned, and we'll talk about where the money goes. We'll talk about research. We'll talk about advocacy and the megaphone for millions, which Dawn is leading the way on. How really the Support Site Foundation has built an ecosystem, a bunch of activities, an ecosystem that supports you, and you deserve that support living with this disease, or if you're caring for someone who has it. And then, and finally, some closing words. So very excited. I want to tell you a little bit about the format today, which includes an interactive piece. We want to know as much as we can, learn as much as we can about those of you who are participating today. Say that fast 3 times. And, and with that, Dawn, we want to know what's important to our participants here on the webcasts that we do. And so to help that happen, we've created a series of poll questions that will appear throughout today's session. You'll hear this sound when it's time for a new question. I love that. And it's a lovely sound. And the questions are multiple choice. You can think about them, respond right here in the Zoom session. We'll get the results. We'll have a sense of who is here and why you're here and what's important to you, which really helps us on many fronts as we communicate with you. So the first poll, we can get started.
So what is for real, right? Okay.
This is the one for real. So Sean's going to come in and helping us with that. Here it comes. I'll go ahead and read it. How long have you been affected by AMD as a patient or a caregiver? And the choices are: you've been recently diagnosed within the last year, 2 to 5 years, 5 to 10 or more years, or you're not affected and you're here to learn and join the fight. So take a moment, think about your situation and answer the question, and then we'll come back. Okay, and I will go ahead and cue when we end the poll, but I'll give it a minute or so. All right, so I'm signaling the end of the poll. If you're still thinking, you can get your answers in. I guess we'll have some results in a moment here, right, Sean? And here we are. All right, Dawn, you see these, right?
Yeah, I mean, it does take a few seconds. Like this technology, it's like, first.
That wasn't long. We're just very impatient now with all this technology. So there we go. We've got,
we got a good balance.
Yes, an interesting balance. What are your thoughts taking a look at this in terms of the composition of today's group?
this this gives, first of all, this, as David said, this gives us some great feedback to know, on the other side of the camera here, so to speak. So,
Right.
very typical, kind of sampling of what the foundation kind of experience every day. I'm really excited to see there's a lot of caregivers or folks who maybe be tuning in who have not been diagnosed. That's, certainly that's what Mike Oscar spoke about in the video. So that's, your role is critical in the picture. And I think one of the things that we want to understand from your answers, and thank you for jumping in there, is that the messages and the work that we do is across the board, impacts everybody in all of those categories. Whether you were recently diagnosed, whether you've been living with it for a while, whether you've been, it's part of your life for a decade or more. I mean, this has been around for a while. Like I said, 1997 we've been at this. So there's all kinds of pockets here. So this is great to know.
Okay. And thank you, Sean, for showing us the results. We can close that out
Yeah.
now. So we want to move into section 1 now, Dawn, if we can. This
Sure.
is entitled Where the Money Goes. So let's talk about impact. We've got a lot of places when a donor donates and when money comes into the foundation that this money is allocated in a very specific way. So talk to us a little bit about how you think about that and how the money goes to work.
Look, that's the number one thing. Where do we spend the money? We spend the money on research, funding research, promising research, okay? Critical.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this follows suit since day one, okay? And we were originally Macular Vision Research Foundation. Some of you may know us as that, and then changed the name in the last decade to the Support Site Foundation. But we have not deviated from the purpose and or the mission, as you said, to end AMD and find a cure. That's the bottom line. So a chunk of the money goes to fund the promising research. So over that arc of time, we've raised over $25 million in very specific research projects, because at the very beginning in 1997, when the organization was started as a nonprofit charity, there was we didn't know anything. The scientist research community didn't know anything really about macular degeneration. In fact, the story goes, oh, it's just something that happens when you get old. Okay.
Interesting.
Now, right. So we played an integral role, again, where the money goes at the time, because science, we knew, and we developed a research advisory board of scientists from top science research and retina scientists from all over the world. And we knew that we had to throw money at funding their research, because the thing they told us was, we need to understand what the disease is. We need to better understand how it acts before we can even think about figuring out how to cure it.
Yeah.
So at the cellular level, okay? So think about that. So millions and millions of dollars, where the money goes, was spent on funding these research projects, right? We were very rigorous at the time. Lots of smaller, AMD-only research projects, okay? And as all of you know, as science goes, it takes a while, right? So that's where the money goes, the research. It still goes to research. Our Research Makes Medicine program, you can read about on the website. A lot of people know us in that way. And then another part of the money goes toward the activism and advocacy, as you heard Mike talk about. I mean, we are that voice for you. We empower your voice. And we work with other groups, Item Coalition. I think one of our buddies from Item Coalition is with us today. They do great work. We work with them. They're on the Hill. They just had a recent great victory with Medicare, Medicaid. That group is a bunch of us in the disability space, which macular degeneration fits. So we're diverse in that way. We've got that state and federal advocacy and activism. We've got the Item Coalition. And then over the years, you may have heard Mike say, I have gone with him on the Hill. We go to Hill visits. I'm out there testifying in Congress. I'm working with pharma. I'm on advocacy. I've been on advocacy groups for pharma companies. So we're always in there with a very strong voice of getting this job done, whether it's funding more research through NEI, which is part of NIH, which not real happy about what's going on right now with that. But, we're in the fight for sight, and it's a regular order for us right now, right? We know what we're doing, and we've gone through these changes in these kind of uncertain times in that area. So the money we spend the money on that, but we also know that we have to stay in there because when things calm down a little bit, where, we can't miss a beat. Okay. And then of course the education, the awareness, the outreach, all of this, we've got a huge digital footprint now. So we're always out there in very innovative, creative ways, helping people, being a resource, that go-to. We want you to think of us. We want you to come to us, right? So we spend a lot of energy on that because we know that the more you know, the better it is. Does that help in the areas?
No, that's great, Dawn. Yeah, and in the communication, is what we're involved with today. Of course,
and that all takes money. That's right.
It all takes money. My MACD Life podcast, another facet of the communication strategy, the platform to educate those who are caregivers or with the disease, how to live with it while we work for a cure. So one question I had was, so if I'm a donor, well, you just answered it really. You just told me this is where the money goes. So this is really rhetorical. Now we know. So I think we can move to our next section, which is about research and fueling the hope for the future. And so with that, Sean, we're going to start poll question number 2, and I will read it when it appears. I know we love our little bell. So here's poll question number 2. And by the way, if you have questions for us outside of the polling that we're doing and asking you, there is a Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom screen, the webinar screen, the webcast screen that you can click. I'll see your questions coming in and I'll field them. And if we can answer them live on the webcast today, we will. And if not, we'll get back to you later. We'll find a way to connect with you so we can provide an answer. Typically, if it's a very specific case, that's not something we'll do in this forum, but Dawn can follow up with you after the webcast. So poll number 2, are you willing to be patient, as in willing to wait, be patient for a cure to come? This is a simple yes or no question. So go ahead and chime in. We just want to get a sense of sort of this emotional relationship to the idea that this is a long game. Right, Dawn?
You got that right.
One way of saying it anyway.
Wish I could snap my fingers, believe me.
Okay, so we'll leave this live for a minute or so, and then we'll jump into a little bit of discussion about this.
I love this part.
Yeah. Give it a moment. Okay, I guess we'll close out the questions and then we'll look at results. Thank you, Sean. And here we are. Wow. That's very telling. So, right, it's really about even. Actually, it's exactly even. Those of you, some of you are feeling like, yes, I have a sense that this is a long game and it's going to take time. And the other half of you have said, I'm not so sure I like this patience thing. So, Dawn, please chime in. You've been around patients and caregivers for so many years. You have a sense about all of this and how to frame it.
Well, I love the framing of that question, and I like how you clarified it by making sure people didn't misunderstand the word patient. In this case, it's it as a
yeah. So sorry, I almost tripped over when I read it.
It's all right. It's good. My response to kind of the reason we ask this is because here's the deal. Research makes medicine. And so many of you have other chronic diseases or have had other, health related issues. We all know and we see, for example, I think every other commercial when I'm tuning into a program is, pharmaceutical, including AMD. So we know, all of us understand that research creates that pill. Research creates medicine. The research that the scientists do in this AMD space gets us closer and closer to medicine. So, we call it, some of you know this, bench to bed. Okay,
Mm.
that's a term in the industry that is the bench research and to the bedside where the patient is impacted. So in AMD's case, okay, when I first started doing this, 18 more than 15 years ago, there were only medicine, okay, to treat wet AMD. All right, many of you know that. And right now, the only delivery system that's available is injections. Okay, so however, that was a game changer, right? Anti-VEGF. There were a few treatments available. Now, in just the time that I have been in this business, now we have many more wet AMD, more in treatments. And they've made modifications. Some of you know this already, to extend the time in between injections, et cetera, et cetera. And now also have treatment for dry AMD. And the Support Site Foundation was integral in that. And that day that happened a few years ago, I think it'd be 3 years in February, was the best day of my life, other than having my daughter. I mean, because it was Syfovre, I'll say it, Syfovre Biopelis. It opened up for people who had dry AMD. At the time, there was no medicine. I'm going to use the term, no treatment. Okay. And for over 25 years, it was like that, right? And GA is also, people might recognize, and we'll maybe do a webcast on geographic atrophy. But just the discovery and bringing that to people, bringing that to patients, and bringing that to doctors' offices, and bringing that, it was huge. And now that's even gotten better. So that being patient, it pays off. Okay. And I'll say this to you. It's because of our efforts in the research side. And again, I wish we had trillions of dollars, but our research, when we fund research, our strategy is this. And it's changed over the years. Okay. And, but now we are very laser focused on a project that we know is the most promising, because research happens over time. And the reason that the public funding, that NIH, NEI, they love us, is because the Support Site Foundation can fund things that they can't, right? Because we're a foundation. We have many success stories where we have funded a particular research project over the years, and that has given the bridge money or allowed that particular science or research team to then leverage that research and that support from us into NIH grants.
That's cool.
Yeah. So our goal is to look. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a researcher, but I geek out with them. Right. And know enough over the years, right? But our goal is to really focus on the best promise, and really, it's high risk, high return, or high risk. We never do low return. That's our strategy. And that's where, when you give to us for research, that's where we focus. So,
absolutely. And that is your only focus. And it's your only focus, and it is a 24/7, 365 effort.
So being patient for it is paying off. To go back to what I mentioned earlier in my comments in response to what you said, David, is that I'm being recorded on this, and I will tell you that I haven't seen the research be so accelerated. It's extremely accelerated. It's advancing more quickly now than it was in previous decades. And that has a lot to do with how research works. And one of the things that we also changed, and, it occurred to me, 12 years ago, is that, I'll say this again, being recorded, scientists can be silos, right? And we created a different grants program where we kind of forced the scientists to talk to each other. We forced them to share with each other because one thing leads to another in discovery. And what do scientists do? They ask questions and find the answers.
Yeah. So facilitate the exchange.
That's right.
It's a open source sort of open loop, if you like, so that they can communicate back and forth between the different silos.
We're on to something in the complement system. If you tune into, my MACD Life and listen to Dr. Danny talk about that. Yeah. So that's where our focus is now, but with the research.
Very, very interesting.
I could go on about that.
No, thank you. That was very, very helpful and hopefully helpful for those joining us today. Let's move to our next section, advocacy and the megaphone for millions. We have another poll question, number 3, coming up.
Ding.
And there it comes. So did you know that when you give to the Support Site Foundation, they spend money on activism and advocacy? And of course, we saw a taste of this with Mike's story. Dawn, talk to us about this component, the unseen work behind the scenes at the Support Site Foundation.
I will be happy to do that. It's powerful.
Wow. Yeah. So you've got policy meetings, you've got policy meetings, you've got,
This is one of my favorite things to do, is to be your voice. This is one of the premier things we do as a boutique, lean and mean, mighty, in the boxing ring, which we use some sports metaphors. I mean, this fight for sight is about awareness and raising awareness.
Yeah.
It is about funding the research for a cure. It is about telling, but it's mostly about telling people's stories. And that's what I believe we are really good at, because we have a very different relationship with our constituency. And, Mike said it too. He's, walking the halls. He's rattling the, bushes. He's talking to our elected officials at the state level, at the federal level. He and I have done this many times together. We hit the road and we just walk those halls to my high heels, or, I have to take my shoes off. We've got lots of stories and of talking to the elected officials directly, as well as their staff, and really bringing the noise. Okay.
Yeah.
And that takes constant. It's a constant. That takes continuity. That takes patience, and you just can't stop. I don't know if there's about this poll, but
absolutely. Yeah. No, and forgive me, I jumped a little bit ahead. I do want to see the results from the poll now. We've had some time to think about this question.
Already.
I kind of jumped ahead a little bit, but it gave you some time to think about it, and we do have some results to look at. Wonderful. Thank you, folks. So did you know that when you give to the Support Site Foundation, they spend money on advocacy and activism and advocacy? So, Dawn?
How about it? Well, I'm glad we're talking about it.
All right. So, I'm really glad we're talking about it based on, not all of this is visible. It's not just research. It's not just communication and all those other things. And I don't mean to minimize any of those things, but what's going on from
we have 3 legs to the stool on our fight for sight.
There you go.
The 3 legs are research, education, and advocacy. And they're very, very important. So when we're not doing things like this, David, I'm out there, I'm talking to Mike, I'm working with the Atom Coalition. We were part of NAVER-AVER, another
Right.
industry organization, meeting in Washington, D.C. with my peers, other vision research peers around the country, trying to strategize together. Meeting with, Paul Sieving, who is former head of NEI, meeting with, testifying in Congress, telling that story. And it was amazing to me when I first started doing this, how very little anybody who's in a position of power knew about this eye disease. And I can tell you that once, that research medicine, 3 words, for example, I've said that in front of so many elected officials who have asked me if they could use that term. I mean, it's about knowing how to communicate to them. And, there's so much out there that needs their attention, right? But I'll tell you, but Mike and I or some of my other colleagues sit down and talk about losing your vision for macular degeneration,
Yeah.
that people are blown away by it. And then all of a sudden they realize that they have somebody in their life, a loved one, a grandmother, aunt, or whatever, who has it.
I know. Remind us that statistic just on a population basis.
1 out of 4.
How many people of a certain age, please?
Yeah, 1 out of 4, over the age of 65. And
25% over the age of 65.
65. And as Mike, and it's higher as you get older, but as Mike said, and I love that he mentioned this, it is genetic. I mean, it's not entirely environmental is important.
Right.
Environment's important, but cause for concern, folks. If you're age 50, you need to be, you need to go to your ophthalmologist. If your mother or father had it, you're 3 times more likely to have it. So it's not going away. And like what we like to tell these elected officials is MACD is not all in one place. It's everywhere, right? And it doesn't go away yet. But we believe, and many smarter people than I do believe there's a cure for it. So it's also not an exercise in futility.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely,
and piece is constant, and that's why, like, especially, and I want to say this, David, to this group, joining us today, we may not be talking about how to set your Thanksgiving table so that you can see the mashed potatoes better if you have a white plate, which is always my example, and it's very timely. But we do talk about those things, and we do these education sessions so that you have practical tips. But we realize that what people in the polling showed it, that people aren't aware that we do this in the advocacy, that voice, and that it's powerful. It's a steady, slow and steady wins the race. That is another thing I say all the time. So you can be part of that. We want you to we're building a community here. We want you to be part of this voice. You're being pulled in a lot of different directions right now with what's going on around us and the uncertainty of it. But no, as Mike said, we are out there for you, loud.
You're out there loud, but with a very lean and mean machine. And that's one of the things that makes your foundation particularly interesting and effective. It's a very focused, tight team. It's not a big bureaucracy. You've got, you just got an efficiency about how you approach all of this that's really working. 25 million, quite substantial and impressive. Thank you, Dawn. Let's move on if we can. We have our next section. Yeah, we're running about 21 minutes now to the top of the hour. Lean on us, the support system those of you joining us, deserve. And so we have poll question number 4, which I will read now.
We got a lot going on today on a Monday, David.
Sean, I know, isn't this? It's a lot. I love Monday. Poll number 4. What's the most important to you of the below? Free live webcasts like this one, advocacy updates, research news, podcasts and audio resources, local meetups or support in person, or anything else. And you can chat in the Q&A, you can chat us any other ideas you have. These are things that would help. What's of these things, what's the most important to you? And if you have other ideas, Dawn wants to know what they are. So we'll give it a minute or so. We'll give it a minute. We'll vote. We'll just, there's so much to think about.
Yeah.
And there's so much that can be done with the digital communications platforms that we now have, and offline as well. As we mentioned, meeting in person, it can be quite valuable. Go ahead. I'm sorry, you were going to say.
No. I was just saying to David, I mean, this is, this part of us, which, I'm always, our team struggles with not struggles, but it's so valuable when we hear back from people what they feel they need once they understand all the things that we do and that we do well. I mean, it's ferocious, as you can tell, in this fight for sight. But we also always, the more money we raise, the more money we spend, obviously, on this fight for sight. But we also want to be able to be nimble, be able to we're cost effective. I used to travel all over the country with my team and do these education sessions in person.
Yeah.
The pandemic changed that. It's not, how do we maximize the resources, the donations of people out there who are listening, who give and support us? Because we know you have a choice of who to give to, right? And I really want people, it's not always up to me, right? And that feedback's really important, but also it tells us that we're putting the money in the right place.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. Sean, let's go ahead and look at the results now. And I want to thank Sean Hedinger on our team over at Audavita Studios for driving the spaceship today. Here we go. What's the most important to you? Dawn, let's take a quick look. Free live webcasts, we've got 60% of you. Advocacy, 40%. Research, 40%. A little less on the podcast audio and local stuff. And we didn't get any new ideas today, but there's so much to work with what you're doing already. I mean, so the podcast...
We don't always have to do new.
Right. No, it's interesting. The research news, people want to know where you are. And these webcasts, wow, look at that, 60%. So that was the winner, if there's a winner. So there's something about this type of a session that's really working. It's a little bit more interactive. It's real time. It's conversational. It's an event that people can go to easily without having to travel. What do you think, Dawn? The webcast
share, and I think, well, thank you, Audavita, David, and you guys for teaming up with us. But, my response to that poll and kind of where we're headed to in this last segment, is my hope is when you listen or when you participate in this session is that you that you walk away with, you're living with AMD or a loved one, that you're with. So when you walk away and you are doing your everyday things and you hear something about your macular degeneration or having a bad day, that you think that the Support Sight Foundation is there for you in whichever way you need us to go back to play these education sessions, to go to the podcast, to read the research news, and also to know that we, in that fight for sight, we don't play, we fight. So take us seriously. This, and I know people do, and I know that sounds kind of weird to say that, but every single leg on our stool is serious. And that's the only way to get to end AMD.
Right. Right.
Some people feel like, but it's also about, as this community we're building, because there's not one out there. This disease can be fragmented or it can be something nobody talks about. Right.
That's right.
Here, Mike Oscar, soulfully, deeply sharing an important story. We want your story. He's so brave. And I love that he was willing to just go in and talk about the fact that he witnessed his mother could not read her birthday card for the first time.
I know. Bravo for his vulnerability and honesty.
People out there are like, yeah, I can relate to that. right? And if
Exactly.
that hasn't happened to you yet, it probably will, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But to um join that fight, joining that fight for sight by just understanding that and
That's
telling
right.
somebody that, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And I get off on my tangents about it. I guess my main message is that we want people to know is that we do things differently. That, but we're consistent and we are always willing to think of new and different ways that make sense, but we know what works and we are getting there. And we're not alone. There are lots of other organizations out there. But what we know is if we back off, that's not a good idea.
It's not. It's not. And Don, I think it would be great for those joining us, if you're not aware of all the resources that are available, you can look for, if you're a podcast listener, mymacdlife.org. There's a podcast. It's a plethora, treasure trove of resources, interviews with doctors, researchers, patients, caregivers. Dawn hosts the show. Many of the episodes they're just terrific. It's a library there for you to learn from about the disease and the evolution of the research on the path to cure. Also, you have newsletters and guides, and I know some of you are here because you are subscribed to the newsletter.
Yeah.
Go to supportsite.org. Yeah. I was going to say, visit supportsite.org, and you'll learn more about all the different ways that the organization is reaching out to help you and those affected and impacted by the disease.
You live with it, and I know sometimes you might not feel like, really talking about it or, but actually, the stories and share, it's the magic of it is we're in it together.
That's right. Well, you have a way of bringing a very creative magic to the way, and that's part of much of what makes your organization different is just your creative sense about how to communicate in unusual ways. Yeah. My MacD Life podcast, which we worked on together, was really a very creative way to communicate about a very serious disease, but it's got an entertainment factor. It's uplifting. And, you think, well, this is going to be not so uplifting, but here you really are bringing it to life in an uplifting way. And finally, as we move to close out this session, Dawn, we want to talk a little bit, and we've been talking about where does the money go? We've been talking about all of the things that you have been doing over many years. You've raised a benchmark of $25 million for research. Folks, we just want you to know that it is donations that make this happen. So I'm going to make a shameless plug and plea for you to help if you can. Right? It's the giving time of the year. Yep. And I think, and we've talked about this offline, Dawn, it doesn't have to be a lot. It can be just a little, a $25 donation, a $12 donation. It's a lot of little donations and sometimes some big ones that make this all work for you and the foundation, right?
It's the only way we can do it. I mean, as a 501c3 public charity, and you've heard all the things that we're busy doing. Well, on top of that, we raise money to fuel all that. And the money comes, to sound PBSE from generous donors like all of you. It's not, it's tax deductible. It's the only way we get the job done.
Right. It's the fuel. It's the fuel to do the fight. We're talking about fighting. So the fight for sight. This is how the fuel to that fight. That's right. And also, there's no schedule to this. We say, well, it's a giving time a year. You can spread it out throughout the year and make little donations on a monthly or semi-monthly or whatever's comfortable for you. It all helps accomplish the things that have been accomplished and will be accomplished in the future. The path to a clear.
What you give to us, David? I mean, that's important.
I realize this is really, really important. Now, I have glaucoma, which is not AMD, and you are singularly focused on AMD. We've been very clear about that. But I understand the importance of losing vision. My father lost most of his vision when he was alive. He lost most of the vision in one of his eyes from glaucoma. So I have a sense, and also having had contact with some of the guests on the podcast, have a sense of how serious this is. One of our voiceover actors was almost totally blind, I think, when we were working with her. to do the voiceover for the podcast. I mean, that really had an effect on me emotionally, really bringing it home how serious all of this is. And I know I'm preaching, he said, to the choir here, because the folks that are joining us today are probably impacted by the disease on some level. So I'm looking
Well,
at
and the other thing is too, it's not, and again, I'm just going to say this very humbly. You know, times are uncertain. People may be feeling other priorities, God knows. And we understand that. We're not leaving that part out. But what we also want people to know is that we make a good use of the money that we get, and we always have. We are grateful, and we're also not asking every day. We are not. We try to have, temperate. We try to just be respectful about it.
Sure.
No, you handle it beautifully. If and when people decide to make a donation, what is the easiest, or what are some of the ways they can do that?
There are lots of ways. The easiest way is just to go online, make a gift online, or supportsite.org.
Supportsite.org.
Link to that information, the newsletter. Obviously,
There's a big give button at the top of the website.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, also, there's a section on the website. If you want to put us in your will, you're thinking about doing a planned gift or a DAF, we're happy to talk to you about that. There's all kinds of vehicles. But, we want to make it simple. People make giving decisions based on what I think a lot of what value there is there, how they feel it impacts them, and also believing in us. So I hope that if you believe in us, whether you give or not, and you believe in us, we want you to give, but tell others.
Oh, that's another way you can give. That's exactly right.
You tribute give somebody's birthday, somebody's, nobody needs another pair of socks or whatever. Another tchotchke.
That's very creative. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, that's great. Thanks. Thanks I want to give a big shout out to Sean Hedinger and on our team driving the spaceship today with the webcast itself. Also, we want to take a quick look at some of these wonderful couple of slides that we want to share with you. Thank you, Sean. And also to Lee Silverstein for her support for the project and getting it out to you and bringing folks to today's session and helping us organize the information and making it easy for us to present it to you.
Stay tuned for more of these. Thank you.
That's right. That's right. This is not the last. Audivita Gives will be continuing our campaign in collaboration with you, Dawn, and your foundation and your team. So we're proud to be doing that. There's the donate. You can look for that donate button on the website. So if any other questions come up for folks after the fact, Dawn, what's the best way for them to reach you, if that's the way to go?
Well, info@supportsite.org always. That's the best way.
Okay.
Listen, I also want to take the time to wish everyone a blessed Thanksgiving and holiday season. Be well. It's the peace and joy of a joyful season, and we really appreciate everything you do for us to keep us going, everyone out there.
Absolutely. Happy holidays to everyone, and we'll see you after the first of the year on another session with the SupportSite Foundation and our webcast platform. So enjoy. Have a good afternoon. Thanks.